One of my favorite plants is a Kalanchoe. And Kalanchoes are really neat plants. So they're actually plants that you can give as gifts because it just keeps on giving. I have a couple different Kalanchoe plants that I have propagated that I'm gonna repot today. And I'm gonna kind of just go over a couple like things about Kalanchoes that some of you may not know. So first thing, I'm going to show you a propagated Kalanchoe that I have done. So this is how I propagate. I put them in this pot here. It's a squatty pot, and I just have soil in here. And what I do is I just cut off the top of, like I would cut here, just cut off a piece, and then I'll show you a little bit later how to do this, but you pull off the leaves until you get a little bit of a stem and you stick it in the dirt. And this is one that I have done, and you can kind of see, get some of this dirt off of here, that they've made some roots. So it's really simple. You literally just cut it off, pull off, you know, a couple of the leaves, and you stick it in dirt and you keep it a little bit moist. You don't want to do a whole lot of water. But it does want to stay moist because you do want those roots to go for the moisture. And within a couple weeks, they get these little roots on them, and then you can repot them. I personally like to do all of mine, when I cut them off to propagate them, I like to put them all in one pot so that I just know where they all are and I don't have to guess. And I have these little, they're actually kebab sticks, and they're the wooden ones, so you can break them if you need to for the shorter ones, but you just stick them down in there because some of them will flop over, and so you want to make sure that they stand straight so that when they mature they're gonna stand up straight. This is one of my newer ones, and you can kind of see he's not real happy, and that happens sometimes. Kalanchoes don't like a whole lot of water. They like to dry out really well in between their waterings. And their new growth comes in these little growths in here, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I have actually separated some from this pot previously and put them in individual little pots like this. And this one did have a stick in it, but it's now, you can see it's kind of standing up straight on its own. So I'm kind of letting it do its own thing. I put a decent amount of dirt in it because I want the roots to really grow, and he's in here pretty good. His roots are doing really well. And I actually have 4. This is kind of how I do it, and I give these as gifts. This one, I actually can probably take the stick out. He's doing pretty good. See how tall he's got? And his new little growth there. And he's actually becoming a mature Kalanchoe because his leaves are getting real dark and they're real firm. So this is how I kind of do. Once I've propagated them, they've gotten their roots, then I'll pot them in a separate pot by themselves. I just pull them out of the pot and put them in their own little pots, and then I'll give them as gifts. One of my most mature Kalanchoes is this one. And you can see how huge these leaves are and how firm they are. This one's a really happy Kalanchoe. You can see I'm getting all kinds of new growth on here. And one of the cool things is when you cut a Kalanchoe, it actually grows back in a V or a Y shape. So you'll have the main stalk up, and then you can see here where I had cut, it is growing 2 separate stalks. So that's how you get it to fill out. You cut it and then it grows more. And as you pinch the leaves off as well, you'll get these little growths that come up too. So if you want a really bushy Kalanchoe, that's what you do. You cut them off and then you let them kind of fan out, and then you keep cutting so that you get more growth to make it bigger. I personally like my Kalanchoes a little smaller, so I cut them a lot. And they can get unruly, and you really kind of just want to cut them back every now and then because they can get pretty big. This is one of my favorite ones that I have. He's pretty mature also, but you can see the darkness of these leaves and how mature it is. But yet I'm still getting new growth at the top. And you can also see here, this is one that I cut here and it has fanned out. So next I'll cut here and then it'll fan out. And see, that's how you get the bushier. When you get leaves that die, which happens, there's one right here, you just pull it off. Get up in here and pull him off. See? And that happens. It's not a big deal. There's one up here as well. Pull them off. And this is actually a flower stalk that from the flowers. I cut it off here just because that's what I was doing that day, and I didn't cut it well. They're really hardy plants. They're not gonna die if you cut them wrong. But really you cut them down to where the leaves are. You can see you would cut it down to where the leaves are and it would grow in a Y shape. I have to trim this one up a little bit. And it's also, when they get really thick with leaves, you can pull some of the leaves off as well. And actually you can root leaves. So if I were to pull, like let's say, let me pull this, you can actually stick this piece in the dirt and it'll root. I don't think that I pulled one of the ones that I did that with, but it will root and it will grow around it little shoots that look like this. So it would be growing like this right beside it, and then you'll get a stalk and it'll just grow like a normal Kalanchoe. But this is one of my favorites that I have. So what I'm gonna do is I have this really tall, lanky looking Kalanchoe here, which he's pretty tall. Actually, he has a bunch of flowers which are now dying, so I can cut him back. And I do have my little sticks in here, which I'm gonna take out and show you why I have them in here, because he flops over. I personally don't like when a Kalanchoe is super tall like this. That's just my preference, but you can do it however you want. But I do want you guys to see there is some new growth. Let's see, right here. And that's normal. That's how the Kalanchoe bushes out. Yep. See, he's real tall. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna repot, and then I'm actually gonna propagate the other part of it. So I have my little scissors here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of figure out where I wanna cut. So I'm actually gonna cut probably right here in this little area. So I'm just gonna pull his leaves up, real easy. And I'm just gonna snip straight across, just like that. And see, I have this little spot, this little extra plant right here. So this one, I'm gonna leave him in this pot, but I'm actually gonna add some dirt because you can kind of see as I've watered, it's kind of settled down there. So I'm gonna give him a little bit extra dirt. Just like that. You can see he's doing pretty good. I'm actually going to pull this leaf off just because it's hanging closer to the dirt, and I don't prefer them to do that. Hopefully, since it's not so full, these will kind of fan out a little bit more looking for light. And then as it grows, it's going to grow in a Y. You're going to have two little stalks that come out, so it's going to bush out more like a little plant instead of just a single stalk. So that's my first one that I have have done. Now for this, what I'm gonna do for this is I'm gonna take off the flowers because they're kind of spent. They're kind of done. So this is the flower stalk here. I'm actually gonna go ahead and take right above this area right here where these new growths are. I'm just gonna cut straight across, just like that. And then in order to propagate it, to put it in something and propagate it, you need a little bit of a stem down here. So I'm just gonna pull a bunch of these, and I actually have a bowl here for all my extra trashy items, like my extra leaves and stuff. So I'm just gonna pull a bunch of these. And again, you can propagate these, you can put them in dirt, and they'll grow plants as well. I've done that quite a few times, but I have so many Kalanchoes, I just don't do that anymore. And I like a little bit of an area because I like to shove it down in the pot. And I have found my Kalanchoes actually prefer squattier pots as opposed to deeper pots. My mature ones, like this one, I did put in a deeper pot, but her roots were pretty big because she is a mature plant. So I did pot her in a bigger pot. But to start with, they kind of like squattier pots. So what I'm going to do is in here, I've taken off some of the leaves down here, as you can see, just like that. And I'm just going to stick it in here, just like this. And this one's standing pretty tall by itself, so I'm not going to put a stick in it because it's doing pretty good by itself. Some of these might need some sticks, but let me do one on this one. You just stick it right down the side, and I just kind of wrap them around so that they stay, just like that. And this is my little propagation area for them. Okay, my next one that I'm gonna do is this one. As you can see, he's gotten top heavy as well. I'm having a very hard time with him with the shish kebab stick. He's actually doing really good. I don't know if you can see, but down here, he's got a lot of new growth going on, which is really cool because I don't get that very often. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have some stalks coming out down here, which is really neat. So for this one, it's already fanned itself out because I cut it once. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut it maybe about here. Go in here and just snip. And there we go. So this one's good. He's actually got quite a good amount of dirt. I put some more dirt in him a couple weeks ago. So he's good. And I like to take out the little leaves that may have fallen off. Just to clean them up so that they're real nice and happy. So this one's done. As you can see, this is really simple. So now we have this guy, and he's pretty full. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna just pull these leaves off. And again, I like to do a lot of leaves off of them because I like the room on the stem. And it doesn't hurt them to take these leaves off. They have, especially if they have plenty of leaves like this one, they'll get enough sunlight and enough energy from all these other leaves. Okay, so you see my stalk here. So what I'm gonna do with this one, since he's actually really big, I'm gonna put him in another pot. So I have this pot here, and it's not quite as squatty as I prefer, but he is kind of big, so he's already gonna go halfway down. And I do have some dirt already in here from a different plant, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna pat it down to make it flat. And then I'm just gonna take this, I think I'm actually gonna take a couple more of these off of here, throughout here, just to, and you can actually see when you cut them off, this is the piece that I had cut. So you cut it, and then right around there is where it fans out, and it does the Y. So for this one, I'm just gonna stick it down in this dirt, just like this, and I'm gonna look at it and see it's not really gonna stay. So I'm gonna stick this guy in here, wiggle it around, and there we go. Now he's gonna stay. It's a cute little Kalanchoes. Okay. My next one I'm gonna do is this one, and this guy was really happy. When I planted him in here, he was teeny. And he was a propagation out of my propagation area. And he has just, I keep him in my bay window, and he has just flourished. And as you can see, he's now coming out of his bowl. And this is actually a cool tip. I actually got this bowl. It's actually for like a cereal bowl, but I made my own little hole down here, if you can see it, with a special drill bit for ceramics. This is a little heavier type of a stake that I was using to kind of help keep him up, because he literally just falls over in his bowl just like that because he's heavy, which means we need to repot him. So what I'm gonna do, try to get him to stay in here for a minute. He's gonna go in this pot right here. So, and Kalanchoes are really good to put in to terracotta, because they really like to dry themselves out, and terracotta really helps to like suck the moisture out, and they really like I've found that they really thrive in my terracotta pots when I do put them in there. And see, he falls over. Okay, so this is just another little stake that I had. I think it was from an Ori, which is my name for an orchid. I call them Oris. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, this one does have flowers, but see, they're still pretty good. So what I'm gonna do, and I do this frequently, is I pull off the flowers that have died. And this one actually has some blooms, if you can see. Some little blooms right here. So he's not done blooming. So, and this one is interesting because he's already fanned out. He's one of my cuttings, and he's fanned out. And this one's really nice because look at the size of this stalk. See if you can get it. That is huge. If you look at it compared to this, he's big. He's gotten himself real big. They do like sun. I don't think they like direct sun, but they do like sun. All right, stay there, mister. All right, so what I'm gonna do is put a little bit of dirt in this pot, down at the bottom. And I'm gonna just try to get some of this dirt off of here. I'm actually gonna do this over the sink. All right, so here are his roots. He's got a lot of roots. And this is really, really cool for just cutting something off and sticking it in dirt, and it does this. I think that's amazing. So what I'm gonna do is stick him down in here. I'll put a little bit more dirt down here. And because he's so top heavy, I'm actually gonna cut this side down and propagate him. I don't think I've actually propagated one this thick, with this thick of a stalk, but I can't imagine it wouldn't work. So I'm just gonna come in here, cut that off. Let's set this over here. And he is still a little bit heavy on this side. I'm going to push this dirt down. And then I'm going to get my skewer. And you just got to find the right little spot to go in there. And then I just wrap them around as much as I can so that they will stay. He might need two. There we go. Just like that. And then when these flowers die, I would cut it down to where the new growth is, which is down here. Because this is an extra stem coming out. So I would cut it down to here and take all of this off because it's not really going to grow much up here. It's going to start growing here and you're just going to have this random stalk up. So he's done. So hopefully he will grow and be happy in that pot and not fall over. So now we have this one, and as you can see, he's really big. So again, take off these leaves. And some of these leaves are really big. So you really know he's a happy Kalanchoe. And look at the size of that stem. That's amazing. I can't wait to see his roots. It'll be amazing. I think it's so cool that they can just stick in dirt and they just root themselves. It's just amazing to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pot again. Put more dirt. I'm going to take him, stick him down there, and he's going to stand up just by himself. And there we go. Happy Kalanchoe. All right, I have one more, and that's this one. And this is an interesting one. I planted it in a metal flower water container that I had gotten. Another one of my little heavier skewers there. And he's doing okay. He's actually standing up pretty good. I do have another skewer in here, actually. He's still falling over. But I think as they get these bigger leaves and these more mature leaves, they get top heavy. And I think that's really the time to cut them. So what I'm going to do is cut this guy again. And he's got a big stalk as well. So I'm going to cut right here. Make sure not to cut my fingers. Snip him off. I actually think I'm going to add him a little bit of dirt. You can also see down here that he is also growing some leaves off of his stem down here. And you can see his stem at some point was reaching for some light because it's crooked. So you definitely want to make sure they get some light. This one was probably in the middle of my propagation bowl. And actually the one I pulled out earlier, it's doing the same thing. And what you can actually do if you find these and they're crooked like this and you don't like it, you can pull off another leaf if you need to. And you cut off so that it's straight. And then you just put it back in and it'll root. All right, so let me put a little bit more dirt in here. And I will be watering these all after I have gone through and repotted them all. So you see he has a little bit more dirt. And let me just get his little growth here out of there. There we go. So there we go. So now he can grow and he'll grow in a Y shape. All right, so now for this one, what I'm gonna do is the same thing. Take off all these leaves here. Take off one more. There we go. You see his big stalk? So neat. So what I have is, this is a plastic pot. It came with no holes, but I drilled holes in the bottom. as you can see, because Kalanchoe, you do not want it to sit in water. So let me put some dirt in here. There we go. Stick that there. What we're going to do is just take him, push him down there. Make sure he's mostly straight. There we go. Cute little Kalanchoe. Oh, actually I have one more. So this one was a random propagation that I did. It's in this little pot that I got for an orchid. It does not have a hole in it, so I have watered it with my little piping water, which looks like this. It's kind of like a sciencey thing. Got it off Amazon, and I can control how much water that I put in here. So I only put the smallest amount of water in here, and I probably water this guy maybe once a week because he's so small and there's not much dirt in here. But my propagation bowl had gotten full and I had an extra one, so I put him in here just to see what happened, and he's done really well. But I think it's time for him to have a bigger pot. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to take and get some dirt. Actually, let me take some of this dirt out. Make a little hole here. And this guy has a pretty good, stalk. And as you can see, he's pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, most of that's roots. So it's really time to pot him. Let's see. Get him down here. Get some of this dirt down. Push him down. I think I'm going to take this leaf off. Put some more dirt in. Alright. And then I'm just going to push down just to make sure he's secure right there. And there we go. He's not quite center, but it's okay. And there we go. All my Kalanchoes are now repotted. I don't think he needs a skewer in him. I think he's pretty good. His stalk is a little crooked here. So that's just how he's going to be. I could probably make him a little bit more, but I kind of like him like that. Looks kind of nice. So now I have a whole bunch of Kalanchoes. So these are 3, let's see, my new ones that I did. This is a new one, and this is a new one. So I've gotten 4 new ones out of the plants that we repotted. See? And these are so nice to give as gifts. One of my friends, she has a couple that I've given her, and she just puts an ice cube in them, and they are happy. Every couple days she puts an ice cube, and as it melts, it's perfect. These guys do like light. Don't put them in a dark room. They don't want direct sunlight, but they want bright light. And then keep them moist, especially when you're propagating them. But once they're established, like this guy, my favorite, just water them when they feel like they are dry. And one of my tricks that I do, it's not really a trick, it's just what I do. I take my finger and I stick it down in here, and he's moist, so I don't need to water him. Because again, if you water too much, they will look like this guy. Real flimsy and not you see how flimsy he is compared to something like this where it's real thick. This guy's real thin. It just, oops, go in there. They just don't like a whole lot of water, but they do like to be wet. So that is, actually this is my first video. So that was my video for Kalanchoes, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something fun. Thanks.